Marcus Spears from NFL Live on ESPN recently said that he believes not only that the Detroit Lions should have made the Super Bowl last year, but that Jared Goff is good enough to lead them to a Super Bowl in the future. And we're going to play the clip. I'm going to give my thoughts on it and just my thoughts on the Jared Goff conversation, and not even really revisiting last year, because we all know Lions were up in the NFC title game. They should have won. We all understand that. But let's hear what Marcus Spears had to say. Man, I love Marcus Spears, but let's check it out.
This team should have been in the Super Bowl. Like that is the reality of what we watched Detroit go up to San Francisco and do. And Jared Goff delivered in those moments. So I just don't want people to forget how good he was in those moments last year. Had to make plays against Tampa in a playoff game before the NFC Championship. He was phenomenal when the chips were on the line. And that is the conversation we having with some other guys, and it's making it hard to talk about their contracts because they didn't deliver in that particular moment. Jared Goff did.
Yeah, I'm with you, Marcus Spears. I am with you. And I think he hit on a lot of great points, right? You look at the playoff run just in general, the Rams, the Bucks, and then, of course, the 49ers, and how good Jared was in the playoffs. That was always the big thing people talk about when he was with the Rams, is he wasn't asked to do as much. So people would bring up, he was carried to the Super Bowl. But you really see the growth of Jared Goff as a quarterback now in Detroit, what he was asked to do, especially in the postseason with that defense, that bend, don't break approach that ended up catching up to them. Jared Goff was very, very good in the playoffs. And I think the point I agree with the most is there's a lot of quarterbacks that still don't have those answers, or at least organizations that don't have those answers about their quarterbacks, asking, can this quarterback lead us not only to a deep playoff run, but to a Super Bowl appearance and potentially a Super Bowl win? I think the first one that comes to mind, although he's still going to get $60 million, would be Dak Prescott. Like, that's the obvious one. Dak has not accomplished as much as Jared Goff in the postseason. Now, this is a team game. We all understand that. But it seems like every time you watch the Cowboys in the playoffs, it comes down to moments. It comes down to drives that you look at Dak and you're like, this guy is not you can't win a Super Bowl with him. That's most people's takeaway. Now, with Goff, I look at Goff and I see what he does, what he did in the postseason, what he's done in the postseason, and he wins. And I'm thinking, okay, if you can build this roster the way the Lions have continued to build it, this is a team that can certainly make the Super Bowl. Now, the biggest question mark isn't just about Jared Goff. I've had this conversation with Adam Bay-Doon a ton back at our former employer. I know a lot of you guys used to tune in all the time. We used to have these discussions, and one thing we always agreed on is to have sustained success in the NFL, you need three things, right? You need a quarterback, you need a head coach, and you need a GM. That's for sustained success. Now, when we're talking about a one-year window, or just everything in a vacuum, right? 1 year, can you make a Super Bowl run? I would argue that it is three things, but the GM is not involved, obviously, because he's not playing. Those three things to me are head coach, quarterback, and a defense. That matters, especially when you watch the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, you can bring up Andy Reid, you can bring up Mahomes, but you have to bring up that defense. And to me, that is the biggest question mark for the Detroit Lions. To Marcus Spears' point, I have faith Jared Goff can bring it, especially in the postseason. He can be enough. Now, can this defense be enough? That's my biggest question mark. And a lot of that pressure kind of lies on, it falls on Aaron Glenn. But to me, if this defense can be top 10, top 12, you have a chance. Because we know this offense with Ben Johnson, with Jared, with the offensive line, the weapons, right? They can be top 5, top 3, one of the best offenses in the NFL. But the question that just continues to crawl in my mind is, man, can this defense significantly improve? They were 23rd in the league last year in sacks, and I made a video discussing kind of getting that number up and how a pass rush is very important. But you guys understand, it's not just a pass rush. It's your defense in general, right? How many points are you allowing per game? A scoring defense, the turnovers, sacks. It's all of those things. So to Marcus Spears' point, Jared Goff has answered a lot of those questions. Now, Some people believe he'll never answer any question until he wins a Super Bowl, which I do think is kind of unfair because, I mean, how many guys in the league are consistently, or not even just consistently, but winning Super Bowls or a Super Bowl? It's not as common as you think. You look at the last decade, there are some quarterbacks that were able to do so. Matthew Stafford most recently, but you see Mahomes, you see Brady. It's hard. So for Goff just to get there would be significant, considering what this franchise and all these fans, what they've had to endure, especially over my lifetime. But I know what people that have had to endure it much longer than I have. So yeah, Jared Goff is absolutely good enough. That's why the Lions gave him an extension. And it's funny, the biggest thing with Goff was, can you win because of him, or are you winning with him? You saw in the playoffs, they were winning because of Jared. I mean, you watched that Rams game. He started off perfect. In the Bucs game, yeah, it came down Derek Barnes making a very, very significant play, but Jared Goff in that game was really good. The run game wasn't great, and that obviously doesn't help any quarterback. But this is why I wanted to discuss it, because it's not just on Jared. To me, it's on the defense. It's on Dan Campbell, right? If you get a good kicker, or is he going to be as aggressive? Where does the blame lie when you do fall short? Because it seems like in Dallas, the blame always falls on Dak. And as it should. He's the quarterback. But when you have someone like Jared Goff, unless he plays terrible, he's not going to get blamed. He's been playing well in the playoffs, or the playoffs so far. They've only made it once. But I don't have that many questions about Jared. I don't. And I don't know where you guys are at with it. My question is with, this defense and with this head coach. Because I do believe Dan is good enough. But I don't know if that defense is good enough. And they're going to have to jump. They have to take a pretty significant jump for me to fully believe that not only can they make a Super Bowl, but can they win one? And listen, Jared, the Lions are very lucky to have Jared. All right. I know when people talk about quarterbacks, and especially for me, I've been a big Hendon Hooker guy. But in all seriousness, like, despite what Hendon Hooker can be, take that out of the equation. To have a quarterback who's top 7 to 10 in the NFL, it's much harder to get better than it is to get worse. So there was a reason why I was always intrigued about Hendon, because I thought the potential was there. But I'm not blind to the fact that it is a risk to even suggest that. So I'm curious, where are you guys at with it? How much faith do you have in Jared? How much faith do you have in this defense? How much faith do you have in Dan Campbell? Because those three things, to me, are the recipe for bringing a Super Bowl home to Detroit. And that's where I'm at with it. Comment down below. Share your thoughts. Thank you guys for tuning in. And thank you for all your support. We're almost at 7,000 subscribers. I think we're about 100 away. So please tell a friend to tell a friend. Trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. And I can't wait for the season, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Until next time, I'll catch you guys.